It looks like a concert, sounds like a concert, and feels like a concert. But this is actually a campaign event for presidential hopeful Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders, one of 4 candidates leading polls for Democrats in the Iowa Caucuses. The event was filled with Sanders signs, Sanders merchandise, and Sanders supporters.
Are we just getting people signed in? Is that all right?
But what was noticeably absent was Sanders himself. Sanders and fellow Senators Amy Klobuchar, Elizabeth Warren, and Michael Bennet are all candidates who have lost time campaigning on the ground in Iowa while attending the impeachment proceedings of President Trump in Washington, D.C., although they were back in Iowa over the weekend.
In Iowa, we like to see the candidates. That we like to see them a lot. In fact, that's the joke, both here and in New Hampshire, that they can't decide on a candidate until they've talked to the person 3 or 4 or 5 times.
University of Iowa political science professor Timothy Hagle says candidates kept from the state are relying on surrogates to encourage voters to attend caucus night events, where turnout is key for a candidate's group of supporters to win the room, and ultimately, the caucus.
And they have to reach 15% to be considered viable as a group. If they're not viable as a group, then they have to realign.
In the second round, choose a different candidate.
It took Drake University political science professor David Skidmore a while to settle on his first choice, Massachusetts Senator Elizabeth Warren. His second pick isn't as clear.
A lot of people have remained undecided right up until perhaps even today.
Thanks for what you're doing. I appreciate it.
Which is why connecting with as many supporters as possible in the final days in Iowa could make or break caucus night for candidates in a race that opinion polls show is crowded with frontrunners, including Sanders, Warren, former Vice President Joe Biden, and former South Bend, Indiana Mayor Pete Buttigieg.
It's a little intimidating just because there's a lot of opinions being thrown around, but I think it's healthy, and as long as nobody gets too angry during the process, it's a good learning experience.
Go Bernie!
Aubrey Christensen is supporting Sanders and is proud of Iowa's role in selecting the Democratic presidential nominee.
It's really kind of fascinating for Iowa to be a spotlight just because we're one of the states that's overlooked.
I think it's nice, though. The people of Iowa do have a word. I know we're right in the middle of the country. People just think of us as like a corn state or a farmer state. There's a lot more here than that, and we have a voice, and I think it's pretty loud, and I think we're going to show it.
We are the most experienced state at beginning this process. We are the state that understands and appreciates retail politics. We are the state that understands our job isn't necessarily to pick, quote-unquote, the winner. Our job is to basically narrow the field so the rest of the country has fewer choices, but good choices, to begin the vetting process.
Hey, man, who's your best president?
A vetting process that doesn't slow down once a winner is declared in Iowa. The spotlight then turns to voters in New Hampshire and a primary election there a week later. Kane, Farabaugh, VOA News, Des Moines, Iowa.